Hello Mason Nation and welcome back to another edition of Mason Sports Insider. This week featured multiple postponements, a successful trip to South Carolina for the baseball team, and the senior night for the women's basketball team. As always, I am your host, Tyler Byrum. And let's get started with the men's basketball team, who opened up their week with a trip to Dayton, Ohio, to take on a team battling for the Atlantic 10 regular season title. The game got off to a messy start for the Patriots by committing 12 turnovers in the first half alone. However, despite the miscues, Mason would only trail 35-31 at halftime. Once the second half started, the Flyers broke into a 13-4 run that would put them up for good. The efforts of Isaiah Jackson, who led the team with 13 points, as well as Patrick Holloway and Jalen Jenkins, who added 10 points each, proved to be not enough, as the closest the Patriots would get the rest of the game was 9 points, as they would lose to Dayton 76-63. After the loss, the team then went southwest to St. Louis, a team Mason already beat this year 68-60. This game, however, was not as close for the Patriots. In this game, Mason shot over 60% of the field, with all of the active players on the roster getting playing time. Throughout the first half, Mason was able to slowly build a lead, taking advantage of the Billikens' 14 turnovers and out-rebounding them 34-19. The lead grew up to 43-24 at half and continued as the game progressed. For Patriots, Isaiah Jackson, Marquise Moore, and Siobhan Thompson and Jalen Jenkins were able to reach double figures in scoring as the Patriots dominated 78-50. Mason now avoids being in the basement of the conference standings with their win and hold a 4-12 record in the Atlantic 10, climbing one spot to 13th. Meanwhile, the elites of Dayton, Rhode Island, and Davidson are battling for the conference regular season title with a 12-4 conference record, with VCU not far behind. This past Wednesday, the women's basketball team hosted Fordham on the team's senior night. As expected, the three seniors of Talisha Watts, Sandra Nagoye, and Rachel McNair started in what would be their last home game of their collegiate career. Mason got on top early with a 6-2 lead with threes from Nagoye and Taylor Brown, who would go on to score a game-high 22 points. The game would then progress back and forth until Fordham took a 21-18 lead and would hold on to it for the rest of the way. The senior, Talisha Watts, who went 7 for 8 shooting in her first career three-pointer in this game and recorded a double-double and her season high of 16 points. 3 of the 5 players who scored for Mason, Watts, Brown, and Nagoye, who had 11 points on the night, combined to score 49 of Mason's 55 points, as the Patriots fell to the Rams 79-55. The team then moved to D.C. to take on revolutionary rival George Washington on Sunday for their regular season finale. This game went far from the way that the Patriots hoped, for the Colonials jumped to a 16-0 advantage with Mason missing their first 10 shots. Trailing 45-22 at half, the offensive scoring did not improve and they only shot 29% for the game. The 23 turnovers did not help the cause of the Patriots, giving GW 29 points off those turnovers. The only Patriot to reach double figures was Taylor Brown, who reached a below-average 15 points compared to players who scored 18, 15, and 13 points for the Colonials. No surprise, George Washington won the game handily, 80-45, ending the regular season play. The women's team finished the season 13-16, 5-11 in the Atlantic 10, earning the number 10 seed in the conference tournament, first taking on number 7 St. Joseph's in the second round of the tournament. Meanwhile, George Washington and Dayton are in the NCAA tournament according to Charlie Cream's latest bracketology on ESPN. Duquesne is also mentioned in the coverage as one of the first 4 teams out of the big dance. Returning to EIVA play, the men's volleyball team traveled away from Fairfax for 2 away games. The first being against league-leading Princeton, who is ranked 14th in the country. It became like the other 2 EIV matches this season for Mason, as they fell in the first set 19-25. But they battled back an incredible second set that lasted a total of 66 points, as Mason would snatch it away 34-32. Then, riding off of Paco Velez's game-high 21 kills and 7 digs, the Patriots would take the next 2 sets and win the match 3-1 over the Tigers, their second win against a top 15 opponent this season. The Patriots then looked to go for 2 the next night as they took on the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Leading the team with 14 kills, Jack Wilson helped put the team up 2-0. The Highlanders then went on to take the third set, taking advantage of Mason's 13 total service errors throughout the entire game, but Mason would pull away in the fourth and win the game 3-1. The 2-0 weekend puts the Patriots in the middle of the pack in the EIVA with a 2-2 record, 5-8 overall, trailing only the preseason favorite Penn State, Harvard, and Princeton, who traded being in the top 15 national rankings. In a makeup of last weekend's match, the men's tennis team traveled to the University of the District of Columbia for an out-of-conference competition. Unlike the trend throughout the season, Mason lost the doubles point with only the team of Joe Hill and Jimmy Lange winning their respective doubles match. Then, when it came to singles, the Patriots swept the board, winning every singles match and securing the victory 6-1. The team now moves to 3-4 on the year as their game against William & Mary got postponed to after spring break. The women's tennis team was also making up a postponed match against Towson. Mason fell behind early, losing the doubles point after losing 2 doubles matches, but hoped to make things interesting as they worked into the singles. By the end of the head-to-head matchups, the Patriots only came away with a win on the number 4 court of Mark Boyers, defeating A.J. Gomer as the team would fall 6-1 to the Tigers. Mason also had a match scheduled to play Morgan State, but again, due to the weather, it got moved to the week after spring break. Now, as we're looking at more cancellations for this past week, the indoor track and field team intended on hosting Mason Last Chance at the Fieldhouse, as well as a softball team hosting the Patriot Classic. However, due to the leftover snow from the previous week and the inclement weather that was coming on Saturday and Sunday in the area throughout the weekend, the athletic department was forced to cancel these events. The baseball team also was slated to have their first home series against Cornell this weekend, but again, this series was canceled due to weather, in addition to the game against Longwood that was canceled on Wednesday. Fortunately for the Patriots, they were able to get a spot in the Lexington County tournament down in South Carolina with short notice. The tournament started up for Mason with a matchup with former CAA rival Delaware. Mason broke open the game with a home run in the bottom of the second by Kent Blackstone, which was one of his 3 hits in the game. From there, Mason continued to score with the help of Nick Gallo, who added a 3-run homer to the cause, Tyler Nellen, who also recorded a home run for the Patriots, as they would defeat the Blue Hens 12-4. Tyler Zombro would record the victory for the Patriots, pitching 6 innings, allowing 6 hits and 4 earned runs for his first W of the season. Their next matchup was on Saturday against Canisius, and this matchup, all of the starting players were able to record a hit en route to a huge 13-3 win. It was over early for Mason as they were able to score 6 runs in the bottom of the first inning, capped by Kent Blackstone's 3 RBI inside the park home run. Later in the game, Derek Evans was able to knock his first home run of the year, and Brandon Gum was able to successfully attempt a suicide squeeze on Canisius infield and score Michael Smith. The starting pitcher, John Williams, came away with the win after striking out 7 batters and allowing over 3 earned runs. After the Morehead State game on Sunday got canceled because of the rain, the Patriots returned home with a 3-5 overall record. The women's lacrosse team was scheduled to host Mount St. Mary's on Wednesday this past week, but due to the weather, of course, the game got rescheduled like all the rest, to Thursday at Mount St. Mary's. Still with snow on the ground, the Patriots got off to a quick start with a 4-0 lead, 2 of which were scored by sophomore Jacqueline Spalding, and went on to score a total of 5 goals throughout the game. Alexa McGovern would go on to tally 3 goals as well for the Patriots, as they would hold on to the lead and go on to win the match 10-5. Goalkeeper Taylor Carpentier recorded 7 saves and got her 2nd career win. Mason's now stands at 2-1 record on the year. Finally, a former George Mason men's soccer player, Chase Miller, signed to play a contract for a professional Swedish team, Bodens BK. Miller, who played for Mason from 2009 to 2013, posted 65 starts and was a key defender, while the Patriots were able to post back-to-back seasons with 9 shutouts and hold a goals against average to under 1. He was also a part of the 2013 Atlantic 10 championship team that made it to the 2nd round of the NCAA tournament. Well, that will end this edition of Mason Sports Insider. Here is this week's upcoming schedule. This Wednesday through Sunday, the women's basketball team will compete in the Atlantic 10 tournament at the Richmond Coliseum. The number 10 Patriots, who received a first-round bye, will face number 7 St. Joseph's in the 2nd round on Thursday. If they win, they will face the number 2 Dayton Flyers on Friday, then followed by the semifinals before the championship game that concludes the tournament on Sunday. Heading back to Wednesday, the softball team will host Towson in a doubleheader starting at 2 o'clock. The baseball team will travel to Radford at 3, and the women's lacrosse team will host Georgetown at 5 o'clock in a game that will be broadcasted by Mason Cable Sports. And then the men's basketball team will host George Washington at 7 for their last home game on the season. From Friday to Sunday, the indoor track and field team will go to the IC4A ECAC Championships in Boston. Also from Friday through Sunday, the baseball team will host New York Tech in a 3-game series, while the softball team hosts Mason Invitational with Cornell and Iona taking part. On Saturday, the wrestling team will head to the EWL Championships at Rider University. The men's and women's tennis teams will travel to Davidson at 11. And later that night, the men's basketball team concludes their regular season at VCU at 5:30. And the men's volleyball team hosts Ohio State at 7 o'clock. Again, in another game broadcasted by Mason Cable Sport. Just a heads up, since next week is also spring break, we will be taking a week off, but we'll pick right back up with the action as I will wrap up both the men's and women's basketball seasons and tournaments the week after. To keep track of every event, you could follow my personal account at @TylerByrum, and I will keep you updated on everything happening in Mason athletics. Until next time, I am Tyler Byrum. See you next time, Mason.